Hello, everyone. This is Stacy Gladding with EPA. Can you hear me? Great. Sorry, Grace, can you confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yes, Stacy, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So this is our second webinar in our waste tracking series for this year titled Rolling Out Waste Tracking Across Your Portfolio. And we have two great presenters with us today, Jennifer McConkey from Principal Real Estate Investors and Ben Myers from Boston Properties. So before we get started, I just want to go through a couple logistics. If you're having any issues with your audio, please send us a message in the chat box and we'll be happy to help you out. And also, if you have any questions as the presenters deliver their remarks, please also submit them to us in the chat box and we will cover them at the end of the presentation. And finally, we will be recording this webinar and we will send out the slide deck and the recording of the session by the end of the week. So as we get started, we just wanted to ask you a quick question, a poll question. So Grace can go ahead and administer that poll. We're just wondering for the folks who are participating, is your company currently tracking waste and materials in portfolio? Yes, no, or are you not sure maybe someone else in your company is doing that? All right, so the poll has closed and it'll just be a moment for the results to pop up there. And it does look like there's about 13% of people who are already tracking, and some of you are not, so we're glad that the majority of you are not tracking waste, or perhaps you're unsure. So it's good to know, and hopefully you'll pick up some tips as we go through our presentations today. So first, just to give some background on the scale of waste in the United States, we do create a lot of trash, more than 250 million tons each year. And this number doesn't even include construction or demolition debris, hazardous, and industrial waste. And since we're going to be talking about Portfolio Manager today, a tool that is usually used in commercial buildings, it's important to note that commercial buildings are responsible for roughly half of the municipal solid waste that gets buried and burned each year. So this has both economic and environmental impacts and presents a tremendous opportunity for making a positive difference. And as you know, measuring waste is the first step to taking action to reduce it. So as you know, Portfolio Manager is a great tool already for tracking energy, which many of you probably do. And that's why we created it back in 1999. So now you can track in Portfolio Manager not only energy, but also water and waste. So you can use it as a benchmark to benchmark the performance of one building or your whole building portfolio all in our secure online environment. And today, Portfolio Manager is used by more than 45% of the commercial building market in the U.S., and more than 500,000 buildings have benchmarked their energy use. As I mentioned, we added water tracking back in 2006 in collaboration with EPA's WaterSense, and waste tracking is relatively new. We added that in 2016 in collaboration with EPA's Office of Resource Conservation and Recovery, which is the home of WasteWise, the Federal Green Challenge, and the Food Recovery Challenge. And here's a screenshot just showing what Portfolio Manager looks like for the Waste and Materials tab. So as you can see, there's some handy charts when you do track your waste and materials over time. You can track such things such as your trash and your recycled materials. And now we're going to move on to our presenters. So I'd like to introduce our first presenter today, and that's Jennifer McConkey, the Senior Director for Operations and Sustainability at the Principal Real Estate Investors, which is a dedicated real estate group of Principal Global Investors. Jennifer oversees and directs all internal and external operational aspects of the multifaceted commercial real estate portfolio, including property operations, lease and construction administration, commercial management, reporting, and property management compliance and oversight. Jennifer is also responsible for Principal Real Estate Investors' portfolio-wide responsible property investing efforts and a member of the Principal Financial Group Sustainability Committee. She joined the firm in 1995. She received a bachelor's degree from Drake University and is a member of the Building Owners and Managers Association, as you know, BOMA, Urban Land Institute Responsible Property Investing Council, the Department of Energy, Commercial Real Estate and Hospitality Steering Committee, the Real Estate Roundtable Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee, BOMA's Energy Efficiency Advisory Panel, the Iowa Urban Land Institute Advisory Board, and the Better Buildings Alliance Green Steering Committee, and has been the past secretary for the Iowa Elevator Safety Board. So as you can see, Jennifer comes to us with a variety of experience, and I'm excited to have her share her experience with waste tracking in their portfolio. So Jennifer, go ahead.
Thanks, Stacy. I really appreciate the opportunity today to talk about our experience of rolling out waste tracking across our portfolio. Before I get started, I thought I'd just give a brief overview of our organization. So Principal Real Estate Investors is the dedicated real estate group of Principal Global Investors. With over 60 years of experience, we provide clients with access to opportunities across both public and private debt and equity, with over 73 billion assets under management. We have about 350 unaffiliated clients and are ranked as one of the top 10 real estate managers. So diving down to private equity, our real estate equity portfolio has 34 billion in private equity assets and over 13 billion in public REITs. That encompasses approximately 182 million square feet. We have about 20,000 multifamily units, and that equates to about 6,000 tenants. The majority of our assets are industrial, followed by office, retail, and multifamily, with the highest concentration located on the West Coast. So as part of our commitment to delivering superior asset management and positive financial and environmental outcomes for our clients and investors, in 2013, we established what we call the Pillars of Responsible Property Investing Initiative. And that really outlines our commitment to a more holistic approach of incorporating environmental, social, and governance issues into our real estate investment practices. It's really designed to provide an expanded fiduciary view, building on our best-in-class operations, really moving beyond sustainability, maximizing property performance while strengthening the communities and economies where we invest. So there's 3 pillars to our initiative that really orient our approach to real estate investment and management. The first one is market resilience, and that's reinforcing the social and economic vitality of markets where we do business. This is mainly through equitable contracting practices, job creation, and a focus on healthy and productive buildings. The second pillar is around corporate governance, and that's really about managing risk and meeting investor objectives through integrity, transparency, and managerial oversight. And lastly, the third pillar is property performance, and that's improving each building's competitive stature by reducing costs and then delivering enhanced financial and environmental performance. And that's mainly done through the reduction of energy, water, and waste consumption, as well as the implementation of best practices. So this forms the framework for our asset management and our fiduciary governance, and it's used by both Principal Real Estate Investors and our property manager partners. So there's many reasons why we track and monitor waste. First, what gets measured really gets monitored, and tracking data helps to educate and develop an awareness of the waste stream, as well as foster identification of efficiencies and opportunities, as well as quantify our impacts. You know, tracking and waste recycling really provides the foundation, I believe, for a successful waste reduction program. It also helps us to meet our organizational environmental targets. We actually have a waste reduction target of 10% by 2020. And then we also utilize the information in voluntary reporting on waste data to the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark and other industry initiatives. So we prioritize the tracking and management of utilities and services really by their impact to the property operating budgets. For those 200 or so properties that are part of the Pillars of Responsible Property Investing Initiative, waste expenditures amount to about $2.4 million per year, despite the fact that it is the smallest utility cost. So we view waste tracking really as an integral part of an overall successful sustainability program. In 2016, as part of our larger sustainability efforts, we actually created a utility data management policy for our property manager partners, really to help ensure accurate and timely energy, water, and waste tracking. So these metrics really form the foundation of our reporting for the Pillars of Responsible Property Investing Initiative, and it's really integral to our fiduciary responsibility to our clients and investors. So property management teams are required to enter and maintain energy, water, and waste cost and consumption data in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager on a monthly basis. So this is for our office, retail, and industrial properties. Property managers then grant sharing access rights to the principal real estate investor's portfolio manager master account. Property managers really must retain the historical data between the established baseline and portfolio manager and the current date at a minimum, but we prefer to have historical records of 12 to 24 months prior to the baseline. The historical data must be retained in accordance with our record retention policy, and managers are encouraged to really back up the portfolio manager data by downloading on an annual basis. Also, they're encouraged to utilize any automatic upload service offered by utilities or bill pay providers. So prior to utilizing the EPA Portfolio Manager, reporting for us was a very manual and time-consuming process. So the waste data was collected through an annual survey. And we work with over 100 third-party property management firms that are responsible for the day-to-day property operations. So those property teams had to collect the bills, calculate the waste production and cost, and then enter the data into the survey. So this process involved really first the solicitation of all the responses and then multiple follow-ups to get the data entered into the survey in the time frame required to meet our annual reporting needs. The responses then had to be validated, and oftentimes that meant really recontacting the property manager to get clarification and then asking them to then clean up their data. And then once that was done, we actually had to scrub all the data and then aggregate the portfolio level waste quantities and costs. So it was quite the effort. So Portfolio's new tracking ability really increases our data accuracy and decreases our collection effort. So we've actually developed a set of environmental, social, and governance requirements for our property managers. So these requirements are part of their management agreement, their management responsibilities, and they are bound by these requirements through their management agreement. So property teams track landlord-managed waste quantity and cost in Portfolio Manager. So this initiative helps property teams really identify waste trends and prioritize opportunities for improvement, save on waste removal costs, reduce carbon emissions by decreasing the amount of trash sent to the landfill, and help increase our recycling efforts. Portfolio Manager also allows the property teams to track 29 different material types, including trash, mixed recyclables, batteries, food, and more. It also allows them to pick their material collection method, such as regular or intermittent, and their disposal methods, such as recycled, composted, donated, or reused, or disposed. When we switched to Portfolio Manager, teams were required to enter the data starting with January 1st, 2015. And the graphic shown on that slide are actually a subset of the detailed step-by-step instructions and requirements that we developed to assist our property management teams with this effort. So we track and monitor property teams' compliance of many of the sustainability requirements, including the monthly energy, water, and waste tracking and portfolio management. We do this through a status board, which is shown on the slide. So at any time, property teams can view the status board to monitor their progress of each task outlined on the board. So the green dot indicates the energy period is within 2 months of today's date. Yellow dot indicates the current energy period is between 2 and 3 months, and the red dot indicates the energy period is over 3 months. So our property management teams actually receive status reminders and notifications to update their data. Property teams are then evaluated annually through a scorecard process, and compliance with our sustainability requirements, including waste tracking, are factored into their evaluation. So Portfolio Manager has really helped resolve many of the challenges of tracking waste data and has created many new efficiencies in managing that process. You know, some of the advantages for us include automatic standardization of waste data. So this is a big issue. Waste haulers, do not provide data in a standard format. It also allowed property teams to enter the data as they receive it instead of have a fire drill on an annual basis, and it converts data into a single metric. It also aligns with our existing processes for tracking energy and water. Property teams are also learning more about their waste. The tool raises awareness about waste streams, composition, disposal methods, and monthly volumes, and provides really visibility and transparency that wasn't available before utilizing Portfolio Manager. And then lastly, it provides for faster and more consistent data management processes by enabling, synchronization of data across our portfolio, and really saves time by allowing the property teams to benchmark energy, water, and waste all in one location. So for us, the implementation has really been extremely successful and provided really the flexibility and visibility we were looking for in a free and easy-to-use tool. And we plan to continue to further leverage the tool and look for opportunities across our portfolio to further our waste reduction efforts. And with that, I will hand it back over to Stacy.
Great, thank you, Jennifer, for that overview. That was really helpful and encouraging to note that it might not be as difficult for people to use as you think. You can translate a lot of experience that you've had with energy tracking to waste tracking. So Jennifer, actually, if you wouldn't mind the slides, I'm going to give Ben control there, and I will introduce Ben while you're doing that. Great. So for everyone on the line, Jennifer just has her bio there and one more ending slide. So I'll go ahead and introduce our next presenter, Ben Myers, who is a Sustainability Manager at Boston Properties. And Boston Properties is one of the largest owners, managers, and developers of first-class office and mixed-use properties in the United States. Ben is an engineer and non-routine project manager with a passion for resource efficiency, healthy and productive workspaces, and ecosystems. His work has been focused on green building development, existing building commissioning, energy conservation, measure implementation, distributed and renewable energy generation, and sustainability reporting. Prior to joining Boston Properties, Ben was a Green Building Services Associate at Harvard University and a construction project manager. He's a lead AP and a certified energy manager. He holds a master's degree in urban environmental leadership from Lesley University and a BS in civil and environmental engineering from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ben. So go ahead.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you everyone on the call for joining us today for a little trash talk. My hope is that these types of conversations, like this one, will help our industry advance best waste management practices. We've spent a lot of time over the last 5 years in particular concentrating on the big three: energy, water, and waste. And of those three, waste has been the hardest category for driving continuous year-over-year diversion improvements. And we spend time asking ourselves, why is that? What can we do? How do we dial in our waste management practices to achieve year-over-year diversion rate improvements? And we think there's really three main issues at play. First is there's a large behavioral component, and Jennifer touched on that. It requires the greatest tenant engagement, I think, of all three of the big three. The second piece is that the cost signals aren't as strong as the energy and water conservation measures. I'll talk a little bit more about that. The third and final is that the waste is really requires an establishment of enterprise strategies in diverse markets and greater asset level data visibility and quality control. And historically, we've had that with energy and water, but it's harder to track down with waste. And we think the EPA Portfolio Manager tool will help us create a more accurate and comprehensive data set around waste that we can use to benchmark our assets like we do with energy and water, and then target assets for interventions. So who is Boston Properties? We are a company, a real estate company with Class A offices in Boston, Los Angeles, New York, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco. We have about 174 properties in our portfolio, totaling 48 million square feet, with a total asset value around $19 billion. We are a green building developer. This is a selection of some of our buildings with which you may be familiar: Times Square Tower in New York, Atlantic Wharf in Boston. It was Boston's first green skyscraper. 601 Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C., a great asset, LEED Gold with rainwater harvesting system. 888 Boylston Street, Boston's most sustainable building, which we just opened in November. And Salesforce Tower, which is topped out and is now the tallest building in San Francisco. Our sustainability strategy is to promote our growth and operations in a sustainable and responsible manner across our 5 regions, and to really focus on the economic, social, and environmental aspects of our activities, and waste management is certainly one of those environmental aspects, as was described by Stacy when she kicked off the call. And on the business side, we have this philosophy, be responsible, and it's about responsible real estate ownership and management, and really trying to be responsible in our activities. And there's 3 pillars. These pillars are reduce operating costs, which is there's a strong business case for reducing operating costs, protect asset value, and to grow socially responsible investment. And with waste, it would probably be underneath this first category, reducing operating costs. However, as I mentioned, the second challenge, the cost signals haven't been as strong as energy and water conservation. So single stream has become an expectation for office spaces. It's available, it's cost effective, and in many cases it's mandatory. It's also, composting is generally a break-even endeavor or a cost premium initiative with a few exceptions. In the very best case, we've seen at the John Hancock Tower, well, now it's 200 Clarendon Street, formerly the John Hancock Tower, that prior to implementing the composting program, we had to do 2 hauls a day at $115 per haul. And once we implemented composting, we were able to reduce down to 1 haul per day. So it was a win to do composting there, and we saved a lot of money. In the worst case, we're seeing that there's very scarce composting vendor availability, and composting may save a third of what it costs to implement on an annual basis. And so it's a more difficult sell. So I just wanted to point that out. While the cost signals may not be as clear, certainly the signals from our tenants are clear, and the signals from the markets are clear, and especially the regulatory signals are getting stronger. We see mandatory composting and zero waste initiatives. San Francisco has a zero waste by 2020 initiative. New York has a zero waste by 2030 initiative. Those are very important markets for Boston Properties, and we want to be a good partner in those markets. Some of the highlights for our program, and I'll breeze through these. I really just wanted to highlight the importance of USGBC, the Green Building Council. We have 17.1 million square feet LEED certified, 95% of that at the highest gold and platinum levels, and all of our new development projects are pursuing LEED certification. The EPA and Energy Star have been an essential partner of ours going back to 2006. We've been tracking energy and water data in the tool, and I'm going to talk next about our goals. I just wanted to mention that it was the book of record for energy and water that we created an EPA portfolio manager that allowed us to baseline performance and allowed us to look at year-over-year performance to get comfortable with setting goals for the first time. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have about 62 Energy Star labeled properties representing 68% of our actively managed portfolio. Another partner, GRES, the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark Assessment. In 2016, we ranked 36 out of 733 global companies. Among the top 5% of all participants have achieved the highest Green Star rating over the last 5 years. Just to mention that the waste management aspects of that survey they go fairly deep. So in 2015, we established these goals for the first time, and we're pleased to announce that we hit our energy, greenhouse gas emissions, and water reduction goals early ahead of the 2020 deadline. Waste remains a challenge, and our goal is to increase waste diverted from landfill, and we are targeting a 65% diversion rate by 2020. So I'll talk a little bit more about what we're seeing for diversion rates specifically across our portfolio and our plans for getting to the 65% diversion. With historical energy use, you see this year-over-year continuous improvement in 14, 15, and 16 in the 2008 baseline of 94.9 kBTU per square foot. That's EUI and energy use intensity. We've reduced our energy use intensity 19.8% since 2008 through a variety of energy conservation measures. Emissions also down 31.5%, set a baseline of 9.2 kilogram CO2 equivalent per square foot in 2008, down to 6.3 in 2016. Doing a lot of it is from the energy conservation measures. A few REC purchases and solar projects also contributed to the reduction. Water use, again, 21.8% reduction and a 19.3 gallons per square foot intensity in 2008, down to 15.1 gallons per square foot in 2016. And the reason I mention these three is because the historical waste diversion story has been very different. So on the waste diversion side, it looks like we have a little issue with the formatting on the graph right. So I will read you what should be in those tags. The historical waste diversion, if you're looking at the chart to the left, we began in 2008 with a waste diversion rate of 36%. So the first time we tracked waste, 36%, looked pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. And then since then, we've been tracking waste year over year, trying to push our way up and up year over year, 58% in 14, 59% in 15. And then in 2016, this last year, we backslid. So while we were able to improve our performance in every other category, waste backslid, and that's largely due to a few assets where we have increasing amounts of food and beverage. So that's why the focus is really on composting. Single stream is rolled out across the portfolio, and we're looking at how we improve composting and particularly how we engage food and beverage tenants to improve composting rates. On the right, the graph shows the breakdown of the different streams. The purple is 25.2% to landfill. The orange is 17.4% incinerated, and the red is 57.3% recycled and composted, representing the 57.3% diversion that you see in 2016. Breaking it down further, it's about 13.5 thousand tons of recycling, about 3,000 tons of composting, and about 12,000 tons of other. So of our diverted tonnage, composting makes up about 10%, and we want to see that number grow. If we look at our markets, Boston, New York, Washington, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and break down diversion rates, it's interesting. Also, some formatting issues with the slide. Apologies, something's happening with the webinar. The Boston region is able to achieve a diversion rate of 62.9%, while San Francisco is at 73.3%, New York's at 54.7%, and DC is at 43.8%. So there are regional differences in what we're able to achieve. Some of that has to do with the tenant mix. Some of it has to do with the haulers and what they're able to achieve at their facilities. And then part of it has to do with our practices and how much we've scaled composting and how composting's been available. So when we talk about our strategy and how we do an enterprise strategy with these diverse markets with variable diversion rates, some better than others, and how we gain insights from a corporate level into what's happening at the asset level and how we strategize to address the underperforming assets, we need this visibility and quality control. And we believe we can do that through scoreboarding, and that when there is a scoreboard, people play differently. So we have a few scoreboards that we have created for the company to help manage and measure energy, water, and waste. So with Portfolio Manager, which is a requirement for all of our actively managed assets, that's 99 buildings in the five regions. Whole building energy, water, and now waste is being tracked. We kicked off waste tracking in Portfolio Manager beginning January 1 of this year. All 99 assets are expected to be tracking waste. I've had some spot checks, lots of engagement through our sustainability committee with regional property managers to talk about how it's working, what's going on, and overwhelmingly the response has been positive. And everybody who's using the tool has had a good experience. I've used the tool. It's like setting up meters for energy or water. And I think that the practice we've developed through our professionals on the property and asset teams has really become so deeply ingrained that adding waste to the mix and aligning waste tracking with energy and water wasn't a big leap for us. It's really occurred naturally. Now, holding out final judgment until the end of the year when we're able to see the quality of 12 months of data, but so far so good with the tracking in Portfolio Manager. With EnerNOC, we have a strategic partnership to track energy use in real time with real-time interval meters. They also do our utility bill management energy advisory services, execution of demand response, and energy procurement in some regions. With measurable, we're inputting our annual KPIs for sustainability reporting. Anybody doing reporting knows that this is reporting season now, and I'm deep in the weeds in GRESB, and we just released our GRI aligned sustainability report during Earth Week. So I'll give it a quick plug. Please go out and check out our sustainability reports on our website. And then GRESB, the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark Assessment, which I just mentioned, we do an annual reporting of ESG, environmental, social, and governance data for benchmarking against our peers. So how do we get to 65 by 20? Well, we think we need to monitor waste streams at the enterprise level to really gain an understanding of what's going on, and then benchmark and identify underperforming assets. So like we have with energy and water, let's try to score buildings' performance in waste, and then look at in detail at what's happening and try to devise tenant engagement strategies and single stream recycling and composting strategies to help increase the diversion rates. So that's the third part, engagement of tenants, especially the food and beverage, and that's really where we've seen the most, or the greatest challenge, and why we backslid this past year on our diversion rate, which is indicative of more activity in food and beverage, which isn't a bad thing for our business. It just happens to affect our waste diversion rate. Then facilitate composting, and I think this is a big one. So looking at how we can help our tenants adopt composting within their spaces by rolling out programs at the building level that make composting easy. I think everybody knows that single stream recycling helped us all by making recycling really convenient. It reduced the brain damage of sorting, so more people do it. And we need something like that for composting to break through there. So that concludes my formal comments, and happy to think of any questions you guys may have.